Hey, what is going on, Frag fam? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to the Fragrance Well. For today's video, we're going to look at my top tier fragrances. I do believe fragrances have tiers in terms of what they are from a scent perspective. Of course, that's going to be subjective. I also think they have tiers within your collection, especially if you have a relatively large collection. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to separate the fragrances I'm going to present in this video into 3 tiers. I thought about doing 4 tiers, but honestly, I think if you're going past 3, you're kind of just being a little convoluted, maybe even milking the subject matter. So we're going to keep it at 3. And I'll go over what those tiers are when we actually get to it. But they are going to be in order: tier 3, tier 2, tier 1. Tier 3 is the lower tier. Tier 1 is the top tier. And I'll present my reasons as to why I put the fragrances I show in this video for those tiers. And I'm going to use 3 fragrances per tier. So we got 9 fragrances to talk about today. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon, enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. And always remember that links to these fragrances will be listed in the description below. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so first off, we're going to go with tier 3. Let me explain how I'm approaching tier 3. Most people probably look at this as something I gain the higher up in tiers I go. I'm actually going to look at it from a subtractive perspective. What is it that I'm losing with the fragrances in the tier that I'm talking about? So for tier 3, these are fragrances that I think are great in my collection. These are not fragrances I don't like. They're not regrets, if you will. These are fragrances that I absolutely think have a place in my collection. But the way I'm looking at it is, if they weren't in my collection, I don't really feel like I'm missing anything. And also, if I were to get rid of them, or if they were to leave my collection, it's not something I feel like I have to replace immediately. So that is how I'm looking at tier 3. So first fragrance coming from By Kilian is Old Fashioned. By Kilian, Old Fashioned. So this is a fragrance that I was very much excited about when it was released last year. When I heard about it last year, I said to myself, I'm probably just going to go ahead and buy that, regardless of the price point. Now it has come down in price, even though prices in general has gone up. This is nowhere near as expensive as it was when I got it. So, that's a good thing just for people who may be interested in it. Before I get into why it's a tier 3 fragrance, this is a fragrance that literally smells like an old fashioned. Don't really feel like I need to go into much more detail. This smells like a general old fashioned to me. It's not smoked, it's not spiced, it's not overly fruity. Kind of has a little bit of that kind of candied cherry feel, which I don't remember what those cherries are called. Feel like the bitters are represented here. You definitely get the whiskey or bourbon boozy aspects. Overall, it's kind of this resinous ambery fragrance with a gourmand feel to it. So that's what old fashioned is. It does remind me of an old fashioned. The reason I put it in tier 3 is simply because I've got another fragrance. I'm not even going to name it. I'm just going to say I got another fragrance. Actually, I will name it. It's Barra Onda from Nasamato. That fragrance, while not explicitly marketed as a old fashioned fragrance, to me really reminds me of an old fashioned, but on a much deeper, richer, more intense experience. And also I get other variations of old fashions with that fragrance in terms of how I experience it. I get smoked old fashioned with it. I get regular old fashioned with it. I think there's a little bit more of a spicy feel to it. It's much bolder, while this one's a lot more subtle. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's just I get more out of that one than I get from this one. So if I were to lose this fragrance in my collection, would I be missing out on some representation of an old fashioned in fragrance form? No, I got another one that I think does it better anyway. So that's why I'm putting this fragrance as tier 3. Once again, from By Kilian, this is Old Fashioned. All right, moving on. Next one's going to be coming from Acqua di Parma. This is Sandalo. Acqua di Parma, Sandalo. I think it's fair to say the backstory for this fragrance. This fragrance was actually a part of my first large expensive fragrance haul way back when I started my collection, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2021. I remember I bought this along with Terre d'Hermès in fall of 2021. So I've had this a very long time. I did experience it at my local Neiman's, and thought it was really great when I tested it, got it in. I still liked it, but if I'm being honest, it's not a fragrance I wear that much. And also, this fragrance is obviously meant to represent sandalwood. Now, it does have a beautiful sandalwood on the dry down. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of the other elements you get from this is cardamom-like spice. You get that kind of Italian, fruity, zesty, lemon, citrus element in this fragrance. There's also some lavender, really kind of spicy, herbaceous lavender in here. There may be some sweet notes just to kind of add a little bit more attraction to the scent, but it does have a really nice creamy sandalwood in the dry down. So why is this tier 3? The reason it's tier 3 is, if I'm being honest, I know out there on the market there's far better sandalwood fragrances than this. And in my collection, even if the fragrance is not centered around the note of sandalwood, has better representations of sandalwood in fragrance form in my collection. And there's a couple of them, ones I can think of. So I don't really feel like I need to name any of them. But yeah, that's pretty much the only reason this is in tier 3. And again, if I were to lose this fragrance or get rid of it, do I feel like I need to replace it because I'm missing something now in my collection? That's going to be a resounding no. Good fragrance, have no problem having it in my collection, have no plans to get rid of it. But it is a tier 3 fragrance because if I did, I wouldn't really shed a tear for it. So once again, from Acqua di Parma, this is Sandalo. All right, next one's going to be coming from Mont Blanc. This is going to be Legend Eau de Parfum. Mont Blanc, Legend Eau de Parfum. All right, so this is not a fragrance that I've had since like the beginning of my collection days, but I've had it a while now, maybe 2 years or something like that. And honestly, I kind of bought it on the, shall I say, the memory of me first exploring this fragrance. This is a fragrance that when I started a collection, or decided I wanted to start a collection, and I was kind of going to the stores and just kind of smelling everything, and if I'm being honest, really liking just about everything. I really liked this fragrance when I got my nose on it. So I ultimately bought it, at a cheap price because it's not expensive, based on that memory. And I've worn it a few times since. I still think this is a solid scent. It's a scent DNA I very much appreciate, but it's definitely tier 3. If I'm not mistaken, this one does have a representation of violet. It does come across as like this gentlemanly, clean fragrance that has a little bit of a classic feel, but can appeal to the more modern crowd as well. So it's kind of a scent for everyone. But if I'm being honest, I got other fragrances that give me violet far better than this one. Let's just call it what it is. I think that's kind of the main thing that would make me put this into tier 3, outside of the fact that, yeah, I don't really reach for it. I don't really think about it. Again, it's a scent I still like, and I do think this is a well done fragrance. But I know for a fact that if I were to get rid of it, I wouldn't miss it. And in terms of violet, yeah, I got fragrances that are far superior. I got fragrances on my wish list that present violet in a far superior way than this one does. So if I'm not mistaken, actually it might be violet leaf that's in here. It might not be violet. I think it's actually violet leaf. And frankly, same thing. Same thing. I got fragrances that present violet leaf in a much better way. But yeah, this is still a solid scent. I have no problem having it. It's not expensive, so it's not like I feel like I wasted a ton of money for it. But anyway, yeah, tier 3 fragrance right here. Once again, this is Mont Blanc Legend Eau de Parfum. All right, guys, so we're moving on to tier 2. Now, the main difference between tier 2 and tier 3 for me is these are going to be fragrances that I genuinely like better than what would be placed in tier 3. And also, if I were to lose them, it might hurt a little bit more. But at the same time, maybe they don't quite fall into the category of, oh, I gotta replace that immediately. Maybe I have something that would fall into a tier 1 category that would kind of take the place of this. But in general, they're kind of that mid-range tier where it's like, this stuff is really, really good. I like it better than tier 3, but not quite as much as tier 1. So we're going to start it off with one from Amouage. This is Interlude Black Iris. Amouage, Interlude Black Iris. Now, I wanted to start it off with this one because I think this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Now, this fragrance here, yeah, I'm just kind of looking at back what I had in tier 3. This fragrance here is superior in every way to every fragrance I just talked about in the tier 3 category. So that already checks that box. No question about it. This is, if you're familiar with Interlude DNA is incense heavy, woods heavy, leather heavy, a little bit of spice, as well as a smoky facet. While this fragrance here turns down the spice a little bit to me, it kind of has a bit of the same resinous, leathery feel, maybe not quite as bold, also nowhere near as smoky as the original Interlude. So it's in many ways a fresher version. That freshness is kind of pushed with notes, I think, like violet leaf, as well as a really rich iris or orris that comes across fresh, but also very, very buttery. It still fits the description of a rich, dense fragrance, which is what Interlude is. Now, there is one reason only that this is tier 2 and not tier 1 for me, and it's because Interlude for me is tier 1, and I could frankly just have Interlude and not have this. For me, having this is a little bit redundant. Now, I still appreciate what this is. I still think it's a great, different interpretation of the Interlude DNA, but if I was only going to keep one, it would be Interlude. I wouldn't even have to think twice about it. So that's why this is a tier 2 fragrance. Excellent scent. Glad I have it in my collection. No plans to get rid of it. Don't want to lose it in my collection. But if I did, I would say to myself, well, look, I still got Interlude. I'm good. So once again, from Amouage, this is Interlude Black Iris. All right, next one's going to be coming from BDK Parfums. This is Gris Charnel Extrait. BDK Parfums Gris Charnel Extrait. I just realized something. I got a lot of dark bottles in this video. That wasn't intentional, man, because the thing struggles to focus with these dark bottles sometimes, but it's all good. Gris Charnel, very popular scent DNA. We know this. The EDP is excellent. I think the Extrait is excellent. You know, there could be like a little friendly debate on which one's better. I know when I bought this, I felt like the Extrait is better. However, I revisited the EDP not too long ago, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I probably should have got the EDP. I might buy it too, because you can still find that one for, you know, a really good price, but I'm not kicking down doors to do it. But anyway, this one is richer than that, but this is also a fragrance where, you know, sandalwood is one of the key notes in it. With this, you also get this kind of fruity fig. You get cardamom. There's a really nice ambery vanillic facet to this scent. Matter of fact, this fragrance is really strong on the vanilla. If there is any vanilla in the EDP, it's far stronger in this one, almost to the point where the dry down of this is more vanilla than it is sandalwood, like it is in the Eau de Parfum. So anyway, why did I put this as tier 2? A couple of reasons. One, I don't reach for this a lot. I've had this a while now. I've worn it a number of times. I enjoy wearing it, but I don't reach for it a lot. So that's something I always kind of have to think about. And this is also not like a special occasion fragrance. You can wear this every day if you wanted to be honest. You know, even when I don't know, I wouldn't really wear this one in the heat right now, but I think you could pull off Gris Charnel on a warmer day. It doesn't have to be winter or anything to pull this one off. So that's not a reason. It's not a special occasion fragrance, and I just don't reach for it that much. And again, I almost feel like if I had the Eau de Parfum now, I would actually say that one's tier 1 over this one. Now, that's not confirmed, but I just have this strong feeling that that would be the case. And if I consider one of the main notes in this fragrance sandalwood, I again have a fragrance that features sandalwood in a much superior way than this one does. But to be fair, I don't think this one is just about sandalwood. It's just one of the key features of the fragrance. Anyway, this is tier 2 for me. So once again, from BDK Parfums, we've got Gris Charnel Extrait. All right, last one in the tier 2 category is coming from Cartier. This is Pasha de Cartier Parfum. Pasha de Cartier Parfum. All right, so this one here, still a really great scent in my opinion. I mean, I love the way this stuff smells. It's kind of a honey, boozy, rich, balsamic take on a barbershop scent. It's very interesting. It's very, very ambery. It's very, very balsamic, kind of almost has this gooey, syrupy feel to it. And it smells clean at the same time. It smells masculine, gentlemanly, kind of posh. I mean, you know, it's a great smelling scent. So why did I put it at tier 2 if I like the smell so much? Well, look at that bottle. I've had this bottle a long time. This has barely been sprayed. In other words, I don't reach for it. And I don't really know why. So I can't really explain it. I see this fragrance sits at the front of my cabinet. You know, everything's kind of layered into the back. So a lot of fragrances, I actually have to look behind other fragrances to find them. This one sits right at the front of my cabinet, just because alphabetically that's where it falls. And yet I still don't reach for it that much. And I really don't know why. I like the smell, but maybe it's just a fragrance I ultimately don't find myself wanting to wear that much. I think that automatically kind of moves it down to tier 2 versus tier 1, because that ultimately means if I were to lose this fragrance today, I will admit with this one, I got some fragrances that give me a similar vibe in terms of what the fragrance is, being a clean, masculine, gentlemanly fragrance, but they don't really smell like this one. So maybe I lose a little bit of something in my cabinet that I wouldn't have anymore. But would I miss it? Would I care? I don't think I would that much. But that being said, I don't want to get rid of this. I think this is a great release from Cartier. So I like having it in my collection. And even though I don't wear it that much, that doesn't mean it never gets worn. It could get worn, you know, maybe if it cools off. I'm definitely not wearing it right now. It's just way too hot, and this fragrance would get very, very sticky, very, very dense and rich in this kind of environment. And unless I'm in the mood for that, it's not going to be one that's reached for right now. And so once again, from Cartier, tier 2, this is Pasha de Cartier Parfum. All right, guys, we have reached tier 1. These are the top tier fragrances that I have in my collection as far as I'm concerned. Your tier 1 could look totally different. In my opinion, these are the fragrances that are of legendary status in my collection. If I lost the fragrance, I might buy another one, or I would want to get another one that at least gives me a similar wearing experience. 2 out of the 3 fragrances I'm going to talk about today are actually new additions to my collection, but I've had them long enough to determine that these are tier 1 fragrances. They add something to my collection I felt like I didn't have before I got them, and I really, really like the scent, and I wear the fragrances. So starting off is coming from Filippo Sorcinelli. This is Opus 1144. Again, that's Filippo Sorcinelli, Opus 1144. I have discovered something. I like really spicy, powdery fragrances that have a lot of weight to them, a lot of depth. For an interesting reason, powdery fragrances can produce some very long-lasting scents. And I'm not saying that's the reason I like them. It's just something I noticed because I have other fragrances that have powdery features that I swear they last forever on my skin. So this fragrance here is very unique in my collection. It has this kind of bright, sparkly, spicy feel, but it's very, very powdery, very, very much rich in like dusty resins. It almost has this really grounded, earthy feel to me. And the perfumer and owner of this house, Filippo Sorcinelli, is very, very artistic. This fragrance, I think, was inspired by one of the, more famous cathedrals or churches that were, built, almost 1,000 years ago in Italy. Hence this kind of concrete block. That's kind of meant to represent that. And the scent, while it doesn't necessarily inherently make me picture that, I get it. Other than that, though, I just think it smells insanely good and alluring. And it definitely offers a version of a powdery, resinous, dusty, spicy fragrance that I do not have in my collection. And I love how this fragrance adds that element. And it just wears so nicely on me. It's a powerful scent. I mean, minimal sprays, and you're good to go all day long. And I swear, just getting wafts of this in the air, I can't get enough of it. I can't stop smelling it. It's very intoxicating to me. So this fragrance, even though it's relatively new, has cemented its place. It's passed the test, if you will, to be a tier 1 fragrance in my collection. Once again, from Filippo Sorcinelli, this is Opus 1144. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Fragrance du Bois. This is London Spice. Fragrance du Bois, London Spice. And this one is also brand new to my collection. It's one of the newest fragrances in my collection. I've had it for about a month now. And same thing with the Opus 1144. It has cemented itself. It has passed the test as being a tier 1 fragrance for me. Now, the style of this is not overly unique. We're talking spicy, aromatic, woody, clean, gentlemanly, signature scent style fragrances. I have a good number of those represented in my collection. So if I were to lose this fragrance, I wouldn't necessarily lose that, but none of them do it like this one does. We're talking a wonderful lemon, a very almost linen, fresh, clean lavender with a spicy touch. Very smooth cardamom in this with a really nice dry, like cedar wood. There's also this kind of slight mintiness in here that combines with the lavender to kind of aid in that fresh laundry clean smell. This fragrance smells amazing. I mean, I was blown away by it when I got it. Like I said, when I first talked about it, it was kind of a semi-blind buy. I had smelled it before, but it had been a while, and kind of smelled it in passing, so I didn't get to analyze it that much. So kind of a half blind buy. I'm glad I got this, man. This immediately, I think, still jumped into my top 10. I haven't verified that yet, but this is absolutely a tier 1 fragrance. I would shed a tear if I were to lose this bottle right now, and I would probably just go ahead and buy another one. I have the style represented in my collection, but not necessarily the smell. So this one is easily a tier 1 at this point. Once again, from Fragrance du Bois, this is London Spice. All right, guys, so for the last fragrance for the tier 1 category, I wanted to choose a fragrance that I don't talk about all the time. You guys probably know that Ganymede, Hasselblad, fragrances like that would be on this tier, so to speak. Also fragrances like Aquamedia Cologne Forte. I almost grabbed that one, but I said, I talk about those a lot. Let me choose a fragrance that they may not necessarily expect me to put, or maybe one I just don't talk about that often. It's coming from Naomi Goodsir. This is Cuir Velours. Naomi Goodsir, Cuir Velours. Now, I have talked about it, don't get me wrong. It's not like a hidden fragrance. It's not one I gatekeep. I don't do that gatekeeping stuff. I don't really care about that mess. But anyway, this is one that, while it doesn't necessarily make its way onto a lot of lists, that's mostly because for the weather right now, it's not one I would wear. But this is a fragrance that I think just holds its own purely from a scent standpoint. Usefulness, I got other fragrances I can use for the same reasons I'd use this. This is a good night out fragrance. If you're going to a nice restaurant, this is great. I would say if you're going out to have drinks somewhere that's a little bit more elegant, this fragrance would work for that. I guess it could be a cigar lounge fragrance, but I don't know. I don't know about that. But anyway, this is a very rich, luxurious smelling leather fragrance that features booziness. It features really kind of honey syrupy resins and slight gourmand edge to it, vanillic notes. This stuff just smells amazing. I mean, I can see why this is number one, the most well-known fragrance from the house, as well as one that if you look at maybe some older content from some of the more legacy content creators, as far as fragrances are concerned, you'll see them talk about this scent. Stuff is amazing. I still remember when I first got my nose on it, completely blown away by it. The reason it mainly hasn't made any list lately is because I do consider this a cooler weather fragrance. I would not wear this right now. It's just too thick, too dense, too rich. And unless I'm going somewhere indoors where I want this as my scent profile, this is a cooler weather fragrance for me. But that's totally fine. Even though I live in a mostly hot environment, I can still rock some cool weather fragrances. I just do it with a little bit more strategy behind it. But yeah, this scent here, just on the scent alone, just on the craftsmanship of what I get from it alone, the wearing experience, that alone can sometimes just make it a tier 1 fragrance. It doesn't always have to be, oh, I would wear that 20 times out of all my wears over the year. Because honestly, this fragrance wouldn't get worn that much, but still, it just smells amazing. I gotta have it in my collection. If I lost it, I would buy another bottle instantly. So once again, from Naomi Goodsir, this is Cuir Velours. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me get you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. If you would like to create your own 3 tiers with fragrances in your collection that you would place into the 3 tiers as I described them, or you can describe them your own way. However you'd like to participate, feel free to put that down into the comments below. If you are familiar with the fragrances I talked about in this video, if you were going to place them into tiers, would you do the same ones I did, or would you organize them a little bit differently? I would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.